Catherine Davis Hayes, Teacher of the Year from Rhode Island, and Joe Fothery, Teacher of the Year from Illinois, will share our thoughts on teaching for tomorrow.
To this point, we have discussed how No Child Left Behind must change to better meet the present needs of the students, parents, teachers, and schools who make up our educational system. We'd like to close our statements by taking a moment to discuss how all of us, families, educators, and policymakers alike, must work together to shape our children's future. Thomas Jefferson wrote that institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind and advance to keep pace with the times. To prepare our children to meet the social, political, economic, and environmental challenges of their times, education needs to expand its vision beyond traditional constructs. Policy and practice must reflect our need for responsiveness, vision, innovation, and collaboration. The curricula and methodologies we choose, the teaching we practice, and the assessments we use to measure our success must all work towards this goal. Teaching for tomorrow means going beyond the core curricular focus of the industrial age. Success in the 21st century will require a flexibility of thought, an ability to identify problems and create solutions, and a willingness to change on personal, professional, and societal levels. Our curriculum must enable our students to think creatively as well as critically about their ever-changing status as civic participants, family members, and workers. It must foster the entrepreneurial spirit needed to thrive in a rapidly changing global market. It must engender a willingness to tackle complex social, political, and environmental challenges. It must develop information and communication literacy and the corresponding ethics, critical areas in a global society whose every means of thinking and knowledge building are already being transformed by technology. Finally, our curriculum must teach the health, wellness, and life skills necessary to become personally and socially responsible global citizens. For No Child Left Behind to truly help prepare all children for the world before them, it must rise with us to this challenge. Education policy must embrace a broadening of content, and assessment systems must measure learning and growth comprehensively. They must assess the development of creative thought, interpersonal and intercultural communication, collaborative knowledge building, cross-contextual awareness, and other skill areas not readily measured by today's standardized mechanisms. They must enable communication of knowledge in a broad spectrum of media. As a whole, they must be authentic, as closely connected as possible to the learning context and purposes.
The 21st century is an amazing time in which to live. It is a time that is filled with opportunity, and we want our children to have the competitive edge. All of us know as a society that education is the latchkey to success, and that can't be demonstrated more evidently than in the story I'm about to share. I grew up in a magical little community in South Central Illinois. Effingham High School is a school that consistently meets AYP. Our students perform well on standardized tests. However, about 4 years ago, I started an educational program called the No Barriers Project, creating opportunity through education. Because my students had little understanding about poverty and the staggering effects that it has on communities. We decided to adopt a community that is one of the most impoverished communities in the United States. The city of East St. Louis lies about an hour and a half to the west of Effingham, Illinois. Jonathan Kozol compared it to a third world nation in his book, Savage Inequalities. Life conditions are tremendously difficult for children growing up in East St. Louis. AYP can't even make their top 100 list because they struggle for food and clothing, for the love of a parent, things that we cannot legislate and standardize tests. My children, when I brought them together, within a few weeks' time collected over 3,000 clothing items to be able to take to the children of East St. Louis. And once they got there, they found out how bad things really were. And they said, "Mr. Fothery, we've got to do more." And I said, "What do you guys want to do?" And they said, "We have to teach them to read because reading is the key to life. It opens all the doors that will bring the dreams and the hopes to these children. And so within a few weeks' time, these children went out and collected over 4,000 books so that they could hand out to the children around East St. Louis and Metro St. Louis area. In addition to that, they found a local PBS station that helped partner us with a literacy expert that would go into the homes and work with the young mothers to help teach these young mothers the love of reading and how important it is for their children to have that precious gift that we all know how important it is. My students came back home and they said, Mr. Father, we're not doing enough. We want those children to have what we have. We want them to have the computer technology that's available right now. We want them to have access to the digital age. We want them to have access to all the things that we take for granted on a daily basis and that they so badly have to find equity. Fortunately, I was at a Ruby Payne training conference and I met a dynamic administrator by the name of Tony Neal. Tony Neal is an administrator at East St. Louis Charter School, and his companion, Willis Young, is the assistant principal. And I went to talk to those two men, and they saw instant value in collaborative learning with schools from my community and theirs. We're an hour and a half to 2 hours away. We have no money for these programs. But my children went out and solicited funds to bring these kids to our community because they see the value in children. You see, a child's education should not depend upon the zip code he or she is born into. All children need to have equal access to a powerful education to make them competitive in the global market. And our kids brought these kids into our school, and it was an instant love affair. They worked together, they talked together, they dreamed together, and they built a collaborative project, a media project about child abuse that showed in New York last fall and Barcelona, Spain. And for the first time, many of these kids in the inner city, they saw the love and the hope that education has to offer. And at the conclusion of our collaborative project, I brought all the kids together. And we had a session about what were all the good things that happened. And the children came together and said, oh, Mr. Father, thank you so much for providing this opportunity. For the first time, we've been able to have the chance to touch cameras and to be able to touch computers and to be able to collaborate and dream and see our visions come true and to be able to stand on a stage and have our work proclaimed as good. And then I made my mistake. I asked them, I said, what were the bad things from this weekend? And a little 14-year-old freshman boy looked me cold in the eyes and he said, Mr. Fathery, we have to go home. Can't you? And I get choked up about this. Can't you just teach us for one more hour? One more hour. That child stuck me in the heart permanently. Because at that point in my career, I realized the power and the passion of education. And it has been my life's dream ever since to find a way to provide for these children. It has changed the life of the children in my classroom. These children are significant. That is why we are here today, because they truly understand the power of education. And you know what? They also understand the horror of being left behind. We have 50 of the top teachers in the nation that have come here today to beg Congress on bended knee to allow us to step into the arena with them and to help them reauthorize the most powerful bill, the most influential bill in our nation's history regarding education. We have no other agenda than the love for our children. This is not a monetary issue. It is nothing more than teachers' love for children and our passion to spread education to every man and every woman in this country so that we can remain great nation that we are. Thank you.
The needs of our students can't be met by any one of us alone. We need each other, teachers, legislators, community members, parents, to make sure that no child left behind achieves its true vision of excellence for every child. We, 50 of the State Teachers of the Year, offer our expertise and look forward to collaborating with Congress to ensure every child has a great public education.